Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. Today is Friday. It is November the 21st. We are coming towards the end of this disastrous month in, I would say, Trump administration PR. And we decided to end it on a really good note this week, which is that Trump wants everybody that doesn't agree with him dead. He wants them hung by the neck until dead. He wants them tried and then executed for seditious, treasonous, conspiratorial bad news, or something like that. And so I wanted to kind of dig into the story a little deeper than maybe the headline, and maybe a little deeper than the crashing out of the people on the political left that are screaming about, oh, he wants me dead, he called for my execution, and a bunch of sad stuff. And I kind of wanted to get into the claim of the seditious sort of conspiratorial nature, the treasonous-ish behavior, and treason's the wrong word, but we use it colloquially. I wanted to get into that. I want to do a little analysis of what's going on in Charlotte, the media presentation of how that is coming about, how that is resulting in this absurd messaging from Democrats that we need to see the military resist, even though I'm not confident the military is even involved in this. So we're going to talk about lawful and unlawful orders. What are the unlawful orders that were referenced in our show the other day? There's apparently this fear that Donald Trump will give some unlawful order, but it's unclear what it is. And so I've got some interviews of people that are going to explain what it is, and I don't think you're going to feel any better at the end of it because I don't think you're going to know the answer. And so this is all, again, just theatrical nonsense. We're going to talk about volunteer patrols and PTAs trying to help students who have no lawful right to be in this country that are using the public goods that are here. And we're going to go back a little ways in time, and we're going to remember when people said, this is not normal, which is something that Chris Murphy has said. It's something a couple of other politicians that I found said. It's also something that Joe Biden said when he was saying that me and you and Americans who didn't think that he won 81 million votes and that he was lawfully elected as president, those of us who had questions about that, we were also not normal. And so whether you put on a MAGA hat or whether you're a Kyle Seraphin and you just wear a black multicam hat with no other logos on it and it's not political, if you're an independent thinker and you ask questions, apparently you're not normal. And I actually think that's true. So we're going to go into that and then some first line thinking. And then I actually want to explore what that sort of seditious behavior looks like. What did it do to our healthcare system? What did it do to our education system? What did it do to our housing market? What did it do to our children over the last couple of years? It's not just under Joe Biden. It's been this concerted effort and this ever marching insanely left to the point where if you are a 90s Democrat, aka Donald Trump, then you are an extreme, dangerous, right-wing, MAGA, fascist, democracy hater, or whatever the hell it is that they claim. And if you are a legitimate conservative, which I sit in that corner, I guess you're just you're this anachronistic evil that they don't even know how to process. I get lumped in with the MAGA people all the time, and I'm like, no, I'm not part of that. I am way further to the right and more extreme than that. I actually mean it when I say that we should be going to tomahawks right now, because some of this stuff is so insane. And God forbid it come near my house. Also had a personal vindication, which we'll share in just a second. Before we get into the program, let's talk about our general lack of trust. The people that are out there watching us, and they are in corporations. They may be corporations that visit the White House, even this White House. There's government agencies, there's big tech, there's data brokers, there's cyber criminals, there's scumbags of all varieties. They want a piece of your digital footprint. If you want some quiet, if you want some silence, get that one? You might need to get yourself some Faraday products. We've got 2 different backpacks sitting behind me. One of them is one that I'll use if I go into any riots. It's already rigged up. It's brilliantly designed. It's the one that you see on the screen. They're made by this company, Silent, SLNT.com. Kyle. Use the promo code Kyle at the end to check out. 15% off your orders when you guys buy them. This is great technology. They're very well designed. They're things that I would spend my own money on whenever I go looking for them. I now have more of them than I can actually use, probably. It's the same technology used by special operations. I wish I had it when I was in the FBI, because the stuff we had was always like Chinese garbage that leaked. And what do? They block all wireless signals: cellular, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, RFID, NFC. There are more that are even coming. Yeah. If you guys want to make sure you can shut down the signals that emanate from your phones, you can eliminate tracking and remote access and any breadcrumbs being left behind. Something that would have helped some J6ers, I imagine. Check it out, slnt.com/KYLE, silent.com/Kyle. There are no vowels in silent for some reason, and I think it works just well. It's a good-looking logo. It's a good-looking design. It's a good-looking product, and they actually perform. They're not the cheapest in the world, but they do work well. So as you guys are getting towards the Christmas season, and you're wondering, what do you buy for somebody who has everything? Maybe the gift of silence is a good option. Let's get into today's program. I'm going to share with you a personal victory in just 1 second here, and we're going to get into a lot of clips, which is not me just owning the Looney Libs, but it's going to be a lot of clips that I think illustrate where we're at today on this Friday. And if you are joining us for the live program, we always appreciate that. And there are a number of you that show up every single morning. So just as on Friday mornings, we like to say thanks. We don't have a Friendly Friday. I wanted to let you guys know that even though I sort of promised that yesterday, got a text message early this morning, and our buddy Steve Friend let me know that he is attending the consultation for his gender reassignment surgery, so he's unable to make Friendly Friday. That is a sarcastic remark. No, he is going to a amusement park with his children, with his family, and he told me in no uncertain terms that a happy wife, happy life is the most, I'm reading it, the most masculine thing that you can do as a man. So he will not be joining us, and we will be on our own, but that is okay, because we've got more than enough extra voices, including sort of Looney Tunes voices, and we'll bring some sanity as well. First story. This is what is pervasive, and it seems to have like emboldened the left. They didn't seem to care as much about Chicago. They don't have any worry about losing Chicago. They didn't seem to lose their mind as much in Portland, even though Portland's pretty crazy, and so is Chicago. So is Seattle. That's sort of the left coast of America. I think they feel pretty confident that they're not going to lose that ground. But maybe North Carolina is a place where a purple state could go one way or another. And if they lost this battle on immigration and immigration enforcement, it would be a real problem. So I've seen a different level of ratcheting up the rhetoric and the emotionality of it. And you probably have too. And I'm going to play you some examples of it. And we're also seeing this completely like detached from any particular reality claim that Donald Trump may issue unlawful orders. In the intelligence world, we'd use the little moniker after it, NFI, no further information. It's almost discrediting. It's when someone says like, yeah, and that's when the aliens came and they actually lifted the roof off and they took my neighbor's cat. And you go, do you have any more information on that? And they're like, that's just what happened. And so you just say, that's when he took the neighbor's cat, NFI, no further information. It's discrediting in so much as, what are you actually talking about? And how do we handle this business? We don't actually know. From CNN, this is actually from yesterday, and I meant to get to it, but I wanted to get to it today. Volunteer patrols and PTA at school entrances, how Charlotte residents are mobilizing during the immigration crackdown, which is arresting literally hundreds of people. When we need millions removed, hundreds are being arrested. So again, remember that the outrage is ratcheted up 10x, maybe 100x higher than the actual enforcement actions that are happening. The pews of Charlotte churches were packed as onlookers watched a man restrain a woman, while a group in bright vests furiously blew their whistles and filmed the interaction, chanting, "La migra está aquí." That's my best Spanish. I hope that was good. Another group loudly saying, "This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine," and then clapping erupted from the crowd. This was a scene. It was a role play scenario. It was a role play scenario where hundreds watched Wednesday at the Dilworth United Methodist Church. Can someone explain to me what a Methodist church is, by the way? Because every time I used to drive by them in Las Cruces, they always just seemed like they were sort of like Unitarian, non-denominational, not necessarily even Christian. I don't actually know. So if you guys, somebody is a Methodist and there's like an honest answer, but they always seem like they've got like Black Lives Matter stuff outside of them and some other kind of goofy stuff. So I don't know if that's like all you Methodist churches, or if that is just the Dilworth United one and also the one in Las Cruces. It says, as part of a training exercise, how they were going to respond to the expanding federal immigration enforcement operation that has gripped the Charlotte area and left residents on high alert. The Reverend Joel Simpson, who is the pastor at the First United Methodist Church in Taylorsville, that's a different one. Apparently it's all United Methodist churches, said, let's practice our whistling language. Are they going to do like the whistle solo from the Scorpions? That's kind of like a whistling language. It was kind of like haunting, mournful, post-Soviet era stuff. Okay, this is a dissonant symphony of whistles as people just blew their whistles into each other's ears like complete foolish retards. And that's about right. That's what you'd expect. We're going to report active operations that are happening in our city. They're going to potentially find themselves on the wrong side of federal law because obstructing a federal operation or investigation can actually get you brought up on some obstruction charges. And you might actually get yourself just pepper sprayed in the face, as I've seen some videos where people decided that they had the authority and that they had the charter. This is a religious sort of thing for them. That's probably why it's happening in a church, to stop and obstruct federal agents doing the thing that you'd really expect them to do, which is like do immigration and enforcement operations. It's literally in the name when you talk about things like ICE or Border Patrol. Patrol the border. Immigration's custom enforcement. Like they're enforcing the law. And for some reason they hate this. And reminder, on the other side of that, are Democrat politicians who are screaming that the military might get an unlawful order. None of these people seem particularly concerned about these unlawful orders when they were coming under their president. And I'm actually going to say their president because I'm pretty confident that regardless of what he said, Joe Biden did not have any illusions about being president for everybody else. Maybe Donald Trump has given up that ghost as well. He's no longer interested. I want to show you who's making these claims. Who the kind of people that are showing up to do the whistling language practice. They look like this lady. I got two clips. They're both from teachers in Charlotte. They both look exactly like what you'd think they would look like. This woman is a very thin, would be otherwise kind of pretty, except she's got a nose ring and an ideology that we all kind of know is going to be not compatible with like sane, regular, rational thinking people. And she's an educator. And here she is crying. I want you to hone in on the fact she's very upset that the language and the message that went out in an American school, in an English-speaking nation, was only in English as they began warning about what was going to happen. I've prepped you enough. Here she is.
This image captures the reality of Rebecca Costas' classroom at East Mecklenburg High School this week with Border Patrol agents in Charlotte.
It was a ghost town. I mean, our hallway was empty.
The terror that these families are experiencing and the communication thus far, including a video recorded only in English, has not provided evidence that the district understands its severity.
We've received no kind of training, no kind of resources for how to respond to our students, to how to talk to them about this, for how to talk and communicate with our families. This is a very different kind of trauma.
Such a different kind of trauma, she said. And she looks like what I would expect SNL would cast somebody, or you'd find on a TikTok video where I do have one of those. This woman's talking about a different problem, but it's the same lady. Generally pretty, clearly well-fed, living in a place where she has access to clean water and a nice house, and you can see the background behind her, that she's middle to upper middle class, probably has an education, might even have children for all I know. I don't know. And yet also has taken on the cause that has nothing to do with her, will not affect her offspring, will not affect her. And like she's taken on a community because she needs to be seen as a salvific figure, as far as I can tell. This is the same lady that I'm going to play you right now, who has the same attitude. It's about a different problem and closer to the, it's probably closer to the real root, which is that Donald Trump is mean and he says mean things. So this is the woman who was celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, and she went viral for that. And I guess she has a big TikTok following. And that wasn't enough. Like celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk wasn't enough to cancel her. And now she's going to have a complete, legitimate, like unhinged moment where you kind of see behind the veil of like what's going on in that head. And it's because Donald Trump referred to a reporter as Piggy. I'm going to play this in its entirety because this is what we're talking about. This is why there actually probably is not a way that the two sides can talk to each other. When the politicians are making such unbelievably, they're disingenuous arguments, and then the sort of like useful idiots in the street are making the argument that this woman is making and has like added so much emotionality to it that you're not going to get through to this human being. We're reaching that point where it's going to be a question of what kind of divorce we're going to have. Again. And there was this small possibility that Donald Trump could have brought this country back from that, and he didn't do it. It would have had to have been aggressive and decisive action for everybody who was like, well, things take time. Well, guess what? We didn't have time. That was always understood. I hope that was baked into the cake, that people understood. We didn't have time. You had a couple of weeks to get a first touch on. You had a couple of months to be able to start correcting some of these federal agencies and rooting out the problems. You need to move people from key positions in middle management out right away. And it doesn't matter whether we're talking about the law enforcement or the intelligence apparatus, you know, the ones that'll physically come out and touch you. That needed to happen. It hasn't happened. We're coming to the end of the first year. We're now 1 year after the election, which means it's not there. The speed cannot actually ramp up in order to meet the need. And you're never going to be able to reach the people that are like this. I'm just sharing this because I think it's wild. And the fact that these people live out there and may live right next to you, you might as well be warned. If you live in a place where you've never seen this before, they're real. They're out there. You'll occasionally run into them in a store, especially if you go to like the world's largest Target. Throwback from earlier.
I'm done. I'm so fucking done. Like, I am beyond fucking done with MAGA in my comments, calling me evil, calling me a bad person, making fun of my appearance, doing whatever the fuck you want. I'm fucking done. For Charlie Kirk, thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers. Yesterday I made a video explaining how you still support this man after he literally called a woman on live TV Piggy, okay? You guys were saying, well, her name's Peggy, that's why. Her name's fucking Catherine, okay? Or she called her McGee. Stop. Stop right now. I know you guys are dumb, but I really hope you're not that fucking dumb. But after what I saw this morning, you guys come on my comments one more fucking time and call me evil. I'm so fucking done. Do you know what your president did this morning and you still support? There were 6 Democrats who made a fucking infomercial to remind the military to follow their oath. Do you know what your president called for? Their fucking death. For them to be hung. You think me making a fucking singing and dancing video of thoughts and prayers wasn't okay and deserved for my family to be attacked? But you're okay with the sitting president, the sitting president of the United States, calling for the hanging of sitting Congress members. You sick fucking individuals, get the fuck out of my comments. I'm done. I'm so fucking done.
Like, that's a real person. I don't know if that's just acting and she gets herself really whipped up, but I actually think that there are plenty of people that have that level of emotion. And the reason I say that is because there are people in my personal life who at least have that going on in their head, and their actions tell me as much. Walking away from being able to even have a conversation. Like, that's a real thing. There are real people out there. And for me, that's really troubling because there's no reconciling with that. You can't reconcile with crazy. We're not going to be able to sit down and have a negotiation about, well, you know, what policy is it that upsets you? You've lost your mind because the president called someone piggy. Who cares? He's Donald Trump. What did you think he was going to do? I mean, that's literally like his thing. He did the thing with Rosie O'Donnell. He did the thing with Megyn Kelly. He's just kind of a jerk sometimes. I'm kind of a jerk sometimes. Men, it turns out, are kind of jerks sometimes. We say mean things. In fact, when we do it to each other, I just told you that I thought my friend Steve Friend might be getting gender transition surgery. And I love Steve. And I would say that to his face too. And I would deadpan it. And his wife would be very upset that I said it. He'd have to go explain it later. Men communicate differently. That woman's rant and the emotionality of it and the language in it and all of that over like a guy saying something. And then she went and she immediately jumped from, he said a mean thing, and also he wants to have people hung. Has Donald Trump had anybody hung? Like, he was president for 4 full years. And then he's been president for another year again. And I don't see him hanging anybody. Like, Donald Trump kind of tough talks, but Donald Trump is not actually that tough. I mean, he's a privileged guy from Queens who grew up with a ton of money, and then he's lived his whole life with a ton of money. Donald Trump doesn't deal with physical consequences for his actions. He really doesn't. You know? Is Donald Trump, a lot of people made like these memes and they put him in like a Rocky costume, and like he's not jacked. He doesn't work hard physically. He told you he doesn't like the gym. He's not a fighter physically. Donald Trump doesn't do physical consequences. He talks tough, though. Classic New Yorker, full of bluster. Anyway, I saw that lady as kind of like the female version of what they think the Donald Trump version is. It's like all tough talk and it's all aggression. It's all bullshit. And there's no other way around it. But that mentality gets into people's heads where they actually think that like they're fighting a real danger. Here is we'll call him a man. He presents himself as a man. He doesn't look like a man to me with the man bun and the ring, the whatever his piercings are and so on. And he's completely worried about not Americans. And so this is where we've gotten so disconnected from each other as a nation that the political left's motivating factor was a black man who passed counterfeit bills and was a multi-time felon that died of a fentanyl overdose while being restrained and put into custody for committing a crime. And they burned the country down for it. A lot of us saw that, right? And then they lost their mind over a 4-hour riot, which was not great and clearly was not a good look. But as Steve Baker is starting to point out, very well could have been incited by a lot more than what was going on. And on the other end, what do they defend? They defend people who have broken the law. Oh, kind of like a George Floyd. They celebrate people that broke the law, came here, and have destroyed the quality of life in my country, where I grew up in, to the point where my children's expectations of financial freedom, of home ownership, of being able to just go to school and not be indoctrinated by lunatics is gone. They have basically killed the country that I grew up in the 80s and the 90s. It is not an option for my children as they are 8, 6, 4 years old, looking out into the future and thinking, could we regain this in the next 15 years for them to be able to inherit it as young adults? I do not think it's possible. I think they've actually done. It might come back. It might come back in 50 years. But we are in that swing of churn and very hard times. And these are the educators. The reason why I cannot send my kids to any school, Catholic, private, I don't trust anyone because they are filled and saturated with this guy and that lady we just saw a second ago.
Class typically has 16 students in it. We had 4.
District-wide, there are 145,030 students enrolled in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools. On Monday, 30,399 were absent, 28,136 unexcused. While CMS doesn't break down the numbers by ethnic origin, Gillespie, a multilingual teacher, did.
Children of parents from Angola, from Vietnam, but the students whose parents come from Latin American countries were the students we were missing. So that was kind of the line, even among the ML students, is that we were missing Hispanic students.
So you were missing Hispanic students, and you believe that is because they're doing immigration crackdowns and trying to get people that don't belong in this country. Apparently, it also has been affecting businesses. I did a little bit of digging on this particular business. This is called Legends Ice Creams and Snacks. The owner's name is Javier Morales. And I watched his first video that he put out when he opened the store. The store looks beautiful. It's not my aesthetic. It's purple and it's very like flashy Latino stuff. But Javier Morales is what I would expect somebody who comes to America to do. Learn English. Apparently he was born in Mexico and grew up in Mexico and has a fascination and love with luchadors and luchador culture. That's the Mexican wrestling thing. You guys were talking about Donald Trump and the WWF, WWE stuff. Okay. This guy apparently loves Mexican wrestling. I'm fine with that. That's fun. And guess what? You speak English. So we can have a conversation in my native tongue, in my native land that you have adopted. And you've decided to create a business that provides a product, which by the way, looks beautiful. Their product looks amazing. The ice cream looks very expensive. I don't know if it is or not, but like significant amounts of craftsmanship go into whatever it is that this company sells. All right. He's crying that his customer base is gone and that his employee base is gone, which means that they're hiring people that didn't do what he obviously did. Learn English, speak English, become a citizen in this nation, and then add like a productive value to the American culture. Bringing in a Mexican-themed ice cream shop has value in America. And I think that we can agree on that because even if you don't want to do it, you don't have to go there. But if you do want to go check out an ethnically themed ice cream shop where people speak your language and you don't feel like a foreigner in your own land, like that's totally good. And there's a reason why so many ethnic food places are very successful. We love variety in this country. So that's not an anti-immigration stance. That is you assimilated and you also brought value and flavor into our culture. Instead of saying, I'm going to drop my culture into yours and I'm going to create a barrier around it and I will not allow you to penetrate this thing that I've brought from another nation. It's a colonization stake. That's not what this guy did. And so I have sympathy for this man, except when he starts crying about the people that can't come to work and his customer base going away, because it tells you what's wrong.
Today I get to tell you on why we're closed. As you guys have seen, there have been a huge impact and a huge growth in ICE detentions, Border Patrol presence here in Charlotte, in the Queen City. So right now, there's a lot of uncertainty. We have shut down. We are an ice cream shop that 80%, 90% of our customers are Latino. As of right now, I cannot take the risk to bring my employees to be profiled because a lot of them speak Spanish. They look like me. I look like the profile that they're looking for. So it is a risk that I am not willing to take.
I don't understand. If they're American citizens, they have no problem. If they're legal permanent residents, they are required to carry a green card, which is very easy for them to be able to show their identification. And then it's like, okay, well, that's not the problem. And the ICE guys are not going to bother them. And if they're not here legally, why are you condoning it? It's actually, it's a violation of federal law for you to do that under Title 8. And there's some Title 18 implications if they're actually faking their identity as an American citizen. So that could be felonious. I don't get it. Because what's funny is this guy, by all accounts, is the American success story of an immigrant that we would expect. If you guys saw it, like if you're just listening, you missed out on it. But it's an absolutely beautiful shop. Again, not Kyle Serafin's aesthetic. It's purple and it has Lucador masks and all that kind of thing. But I could walk in there with my kids and go, yeah, this is not where I might normally go. But I would feel very comfortable. There's the owner. He speaks fluent English. He's not out there like pushing some sort of, you must speak Spanish in my Spanish speaking only shop that is in the middle of North Carolina, which is nowhere near Mexico. No, the guy did exactly what you want. And it's crazy to me that that there are tiers for this. I understand that E-Verify has problems, but there are opportunities for you to go, like, he's actually the example of what they should have been hiring. And for him to have, I don't know, misplaced compassion, people who didn't do the thing that he did, which must have been really hard. I have to imagine that coming to a nation and not speaking the language originally, or having to learn it and then learning the culture and being able to set up a shop, which is not cheap, and to be able to find a product that people want and identify and take your passion for Mexican wrestling and turn it into a food venue and then have a customer base that's going to come in and support you to stay open. That's awesome. That's an awesome thing that we would want. That's the kind of motivated people that we love coming into this country. For him to celebrate the opposite of that, people who cheated and didn't and came in under Joe Biden's nonsense. It confuses me because it's actually against that guy's best interest. Here's another guy doing the exact same thing, and then I'm going to give you a lady who actually understands it.
Boulevard, none of the businesses produce money this week. Yeah, it's completely lost. We're talking 80% of the everything. 80% of our money is just gone. Right. And the only one that produced was this one. And how are you feeling? I cry every morning coming to work. Not for the fact that, you know, of me. I see Christmas is not gonna be an amazing time this year. It feels like a dull Christmas coming up. My birthday's on Thanksgiving this year. The party that was with the family, with the coworkers, got canceled completely as well. So it's just starting to feel, and then for the first time in 24 years that I've been here, I felt real fear. Fear that closes up your chest. Fear that you feel like your bones and you feel like you're dying, literally.
You literally do not. I'm not trying to be mean, but both of those men are very effeminate. Maybe that's a Latino thing, and I always thought they always wanted to sound really masculine, but the chat's recognizing it too. They sound gay. They do. There's this overwhelming kind of like theme that runs through a lot of these men on the Democrat side. The teacher too. Effeminate. Not masculine. Feminized. You know? Is that the issue? Is it just a testosterone issue? Have we just lost testosterone in this country? Have we not valued it? Because it seems like we haven't. Maybe that's why we have children that were confused about what their gender is, because they look around and they don't have male references of like, and if men do things that men do, which is like talk rough and, you know, act gruff sometimes, then that's apparently awful. And that's dangerous and violent. I mean, we did try to criminalize a lot of masculinity for quite a while. It's weird to watch because you can just see this theme. And I just know that the people that I can look at certain people and just go, that's my tribe. You guys do that? There's a guy that just moved in down the street from me. I saw him get out of his truck and I'm like, that's my tribe. Like, he has normal male musculature. He looks like if I needed him to help me lift something heavy, I wouldn't cause him to call his wife to come help me. He looks like he'd be the kind of guy that would just jump up and grab it. My dad is like that. My dad is in his 70s. And then you see the alternative. A lot of them live on the East Coast. I saw them all the time. And you're like, that guy's soft. I would fight that guy with no hands. I have a friend who's a special forces veteran. He was an FBI agent, is an FBI agent. He was my partner when we were in New Mexico. Straight killer. Like no qualms around it. Like this guy went and did bad things to people overseas. And we're going to talk about that in a second too, since the military part of it is part of the discussion. And he used to tell me something, and he's like, is it weird that when I look at another man, I value them, their opinion, and I respect them based on how difficult I think it would be to take their life in Mortal Kombat? And I thought about it for a little bit, and I went, like, I think all men do that, don't they? Folks, you maybe tell me in a comment below. Men, specifically. Women, don't comment on this. This will hurt your feelings. But men, is that how you assess other men? Like, threat, no threat kind of thing? Is this person someone that I'd be willing to go hands-on with? Or this person would challenge me and therefore I'm going to be maybe more respectful. Maybe this tone of insanity, like we heard that crazy lady doing, maybe it just comes from the fact that there are men that are not capable of physical violence. I heard Jordan Peterson talk about this a lot. The men who are weak and they are the most dangerous, the Joe Biden types who physically did not have the ability to ever use their hands for anything violent, who would look over their shoulder at this tomahawk and see that as a relic. Whereas I see that as a tool that might be needed in case somebody tries to touch my children. I'm going to put it in the middle of their forehead and leave it there. You know what I mean? Is that a thing? Is that the difference between us for this side? Physical consequences have been removed. Maybe that's why you get up there and you blow your whistle in a federal agent's face and you're shocked that they use tear, like some kind of, pepper spray to back you off. Like, what would you rather them do? Blast you in the face with their hands? Because they could do that too. I would do that. You get in my face with a whistle as a private citizen and I'm not on the job, I'm going to put you on the pavement because that's craziness. Nobody needs to tolerate that. It hurts my ears. Now you have to be hurt. Maybe you'll learn the lesson. This lady gets it, by the way. This woman seems to get it. So I'm not completely lost, but again, this is a lady who looks not like the crazy ladies. She looks like she has a productive marriage. She looks like she might fall on the conservative side of things. Her name's Brittany Hughes, so you guys may know who this is. She's got a big following. I'm not previously familiar with her, but what I can tell is she dresses modestly. She puts herself together like an adult. She doesn't look like she's trying to be a transgender, whatever it is, like drag queen, which is what I see some of these lunatic women that are looking for attention dress their faces up with. And then here she is. She's just a mom. I hate the car thing, but she's sitting in a car and she's speaking things that make perfect sense to me. She did not have the same emotional reaction to that teacher or the effeminate ice cream shop guy or the man who cries every morning because his birthday's on Thanksgiving and nobody's coming into the store. She's like, oh, I just want my children to have a better life and you have been stealing from my children. And so I don't like that. I'm not viciously angry at you, but I'm disappointed that our country allowed it.
So I keep seeing all of these videos out of Charlotte, North Carolina about how the city has practically shut down because ICE came to town. And I see all of these videos about all of these job sites that are practically empty because none of the workers showed up, and stores that are empty because none of the customers showed up, and how 15% of public school children didn't come to school the next day because they're afraid of being deported. That's 1 in 6 kids, by the way. And I think all these stories are supposed to make me feel really bad. Like, look at all of these people that are being affected by the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. Like, yeah, Look at all these people. Look at all of these children of people who shouldn't even be in this country, who are being educated in taxpayer-funded American schools with resources that could be going to American children, while our math and literacy rates go through the floor. Look at all of these jobs that could be going to Americans, but all of these businesses are benefiting from practically slave labor. Look at how massive and pervasive this problem has become, because you had presidents like Joe Biden just letting people in a tidal wave, and now we got to figure out how to untangle this ball of yarn. Yeah, look at all of these people. That's kind of the point.
You can hang out at my dinner table anytime. That lady can come hang out with me and my wife. We would have a really nice conversation. I'm sure whoever she's married to would also agree. Look what you did. Look what you did to us. And so is it any wonder that there's like mean words, and we're calling reporters that have been lying about the state of affairs piggy? That's the nicest thing you can do, is call someone piggy. He didn't blast her in the face because she was being rude. You know, I watched this funny interview. It was a Barbara Walters interview. Maybe you guys are familiar with it. There was a Barbara Walters interview a long time ago with Sean Connery, who's epic in it. And he's sitting there and she was like, "You didn't even get yourself all dolled up for this interview." And he's like, "No, I didn't." And he said it in the Sean Connery brogue, which I can do an impression, but I'm not going to today. And then she said, "I saw something where you said that sometimes if a woman, needs a good slap in the face or something to that effect." And so you guys can go back, watch the clip. Maybe we'll post it over on the local side. And he's like, "Yes, sometimes women need a slap in the face." But he doesn't sound like he's excited about it. He says it's like a method of last resort, which is really funny because I don't know. I don't think slapping women in the face is particularly necessary. But then you see Barbara Walters kind of needed to be slapped in the face in that interview because she really wanted it for some reason. She wanted to be able to be proved right, and she was willing to goad him and just be this awful person. So if he'd called her piggy or something like that, and like, "Shut your mouth," like whatever. There are some people that just need the boundary. That's what it comes down to. Boundaries. They need it. They talk about it in psychology all the time. When you lose boundaries, the relationship is ruined. Our country failed at its boundaries. Our politicians failed to uphold the boundaries between what is appropriate and what is not appropriate. The left failed to stay on their side of the boundaries. It's like if they just said, "We think more government is better and we think more compassion through government is the right answer." And we said, "Well, we think private charity is better and we'd rather do it with our own money." And then we just had disagreements about that until whoever voted in, one side or the other. That's not what happened. They made moral arguments. They said you're dangerous. They said you're bad. They said you're a person who does not actually warrant an opinion, and you're not normal for not thinking as I do, because I mandate that you think the way that I do. And I'm going to give you examples of that because I went and pulled right from Joe Biden's red speech, right in the middle of his presidency in 2022 at Independence Hall. And I've got 3 painful clips to remind you what the alternative was and how gross it was. And I never heard a Democrat speak up and say, "Oh, Joe Biden is not being normal and he's crossed a line." No, they were all on board for it because it's all theater. They were theatrical about it. And so now Donald Trump being mad, they have theatrical rage. You don't trust anybody here, especially government agents, if you don't want them to look for you, if you don't think that this is solved as a problem, you don't think that keeping your personal information safe, then do not go to my friends over at patriot-protect.com/Kyle. But if you do want to make sure that your stuff is heading away from cyber criminals or doxers or scammers or scumbags that want to try to embarrass you at your workplace and try to get you removed from your job or whatever else people did during COVID and other shame festivals, maybe you look into these folks. Patriot-protect.com/Kyle. That's the website. We use them. My wife uses them. My parents use them as well. The key is you just want to kind of make sure that you're a lower possibility of victim for harassment and stalking and scamming or worse. The internet should not be a roadmap to your house. And so these guys go out there and they scrub the data brokers and Google and all the people that are trying to monetize your personal information, which, people can find it in a phone book. We're talking about the people that are like hanging out in India or like whatever, Nigeria, and they're trying to make sure that they can pretend to be a company that you work with so they could take everything that you've worked hard for. It's dollars a day or dollars a month, rather. It's not expensive. It's like under $100. So check out my friends at Patriot Protect. Again, patriot-protect.com/KYLE. There is a link in the show description below as usual. Let's talk about privacy for 1 second here, since we're talking about that. We're going to continue on in this little topic. Privacy. That sort of thing that you expect the government to honor and stay out of your business. Some people are very outraged when the government gets into their business. And this is a story from ABC that the House has decided to undo something that was pretty atrocious. In the funding bill that was passed by the Senate, they unanimously approved a bill to strip the Senate phone investigations provision. This was a provision that was going to allow like 9 senators or 8 Republican senators to sue the federal government for $500,000 per occurrence when a lawful subpoena was issued for their stuff. How about they actually solve the problem rather than awarding themselves millions and millions of dollars? This is funny. I'm going to play you Lindsey Graham, who's detestable, and he's outraged that a lawful subpoena resulted in the government agency using its lawful authorities to look into his phone records. As someone who has had their information subpoenaed by the federal government, I don't have the ability to sue the government for looking into me, even though I know for a fact that it was politically motivated. And so do you. They went after me for being an FBI whistleblower, for making Chris Wray look bad, making the institution I used to work at look bad. And they went after me by grabbing my Google and grabbing God knows what else, my Twitter records and so on. We found out about the subpoenas later. I don't get to go out there and sue for $500,000 per instance they pulled those records because a judge thought it was warranted, because that's how it works. If you want to fix the problem, Lindsey Graham, you should be removing these authorities and trying to like subjugate our federal law enforcement. And instead what they do is they want to make sure it's good for them. They want to get rich off it. They want to be outraged. They want to fundraise. They want to stay in office, but they don't want to fix this problem. And as we keep seeing, I'm saying it's November 21st. We are now deep into the first year of the Trump admin. The group that was going to de-weaponize, they have not de-weaponized. Instead, what they've tried to do is hand themselves more money so that at least they can enjoy the decline as America falls apart around them. This is why I don't think there's a solution. One side is mobilized and emotional and screaming, and the other side is freaking Lindsey Graham, who's trying to put money into his dirty pockets. Listen to him, how outraged he is. This is theatrical too.
In the future, this is really outrageous. You want to use that word? I am really outraged that my private cell phone and my official phone were subpoenaed without cause, that a judge would suggest that I would destroy evidence or tamper with witnesses if I were told about what was going on. And I'm sure the other senators, Haggerty, Hawley, Sullivan, Tuberville, Johnson, Scott, Loomis, Blackburn, Ted Cruz, at least one staff member, the Speaker of the House, now we know, Kevin McCarthy, they asked for his phone records the day he was sworn in as Speaker, and AT&T apparently gave them to him. What's going on here? What did we do? This is why we need to go to court and have our day in court. And the burden will be on me that I was wronged. But there's no doubt if you were the jury, I would have no chance. You've already...
Dude, shut up. That's not what a subpoena is. He doesn't even know what he's arguing against, or he does, and he's being just a lying sack of crap. It's infuriating because you're supposed to represent the people. So go out there and represent the people. If you don't like this policy, if you don't like this capability that this agency has, why did you guys just fund it? You just funded it with a way for you to get $500,000 per instance that they did a lawful subpoena? These guys know better. They have to know better. They're not that dumb, I don't think. And is that the Trump administration policy that we're going to go out there and we're going to de-weaponize? We're going to take away subpoena power from the FBI under certain types of investigations, or all? Is that the answer? Maybe it is. I'm not sure I trust them. I'm not sure you do either if you listen to this program. So, okay, fine. No, that's not what they're going to do. They're just going to sue for millions of dollars so that he can go and have his day in court. This needs to go away. And the House already looks at it and goes, yeah, that's crap. There's no reason that there should be a special carve out to sue the federal government for a thing that they're lawfully allowed to do. Maybe the House will actually fix the problem. The odds are very low. Instead, they're quibbling about something else, which is actually a real instance of what looks like really gross corruption. You guys know, we just spent the first half of the show talking about people on the left acting unhinged. How about the people that get into power and the first thing they do is grab all the money for themselves, Lindsey Graham style, just like that. And they do things that are so disgusting that when you read it, you're like, this can't be real. There was a story in ProPublica that came out either at the end of last week or the beginning of this week talking about Kristi Noem. I am no fan of Kristi Noem. I don't think she's running DHS either. She's apparently gone out and done advertisements where she's sitting on a horse and wearing chaps. We may have even shown it here on the program. And the claim is that she has been funneling money through some certain contractors She's funneled money to do like a $200 million, essentially propaganda campaign. Are we good with that? Here's the problem. One of the beneficiaries of that $200 million was the husband of one of the lead spokespersons who works directly for Kristi Noem. And this woman, whatever her name is, Trisha something or other, she goes, well, I don't know what my husband's business dealings are. Are you trying to, like, are you shitting me? Your husband got a multi-million-dollar contract from your government agency in the area of things that you work on, and you guys never talked about that at home ever? He wasn't like, honey, great news, $8.5 million contract, no bid, nailed it. We're going to have a great year this year. And she was like, oh, we never can talk about that. I work in the government. We would never talk about your businesses at home. Why are you lying? So you're going to actually make me agree with Jasmine Crockett. You're going to make me agree with her. Don't worry. I'm going to show you that she's an idiot still. Jasmine Crockett is still an idiot. But she's close to right on this. This is how I know how stupid it is. There's no way you can win when we have people that are quote unquote on our side doing the things and they're just taking our money left and right. And all they apparently want to be is kings over the rubble as the country kind of crumbles around them. And the futures of my children and your grandchildren is going to look like crap. At least these people will have tens of millions of dollars to live well, I guess.
Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem. Not only has Secretary Noem been busy filming propaganda ads, she's also been busy cashing in on millions of taxpayer dollars. In fact, Secretary Noem has funneled millions of dollars to a company called the Strategy Group. The Strategy Group helped Secretary Noem win her campaign to become the governor of South Dakota. Corey Lewandowski, her top policy advisor, has worked with the firm. And the company's CEO is married to Secretary Noem's chief spokesperson, Mrs. Tricia McLaughlin. This is what corruption looks like. They're stealing money from the American people's pockets and depositing it into their bank accounts. Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem.
Let's put her on the screen. There she is. That's one of their propaganda ads. Are you... Who looks like that? Any girls, if you go out at night, ladies, that's a nice look if you're going out to a cowboy bar, I guess. Got your hair did. You got your nice hat on that's never been outside and it's never gotten dirty. You got your expensive Western shirt on that doesn't make a lot of sense, but looks good on a dance floor, I suppose. You got chaps on as you sit on a horse next to Mount Mushmore, and then you put on all your makeup on your face, and then they take a picture of you. Iconic stuff. This is actually pretty crazy. The revelations come as the amount of money at Noem's disposal has skyrocketed. The so-called Big Beautiful Bill gave DHS $150 billion, and she's given herself an unusual degree of control over how that money is spent. This summer, she is personally requiring approval of any payment over $100,000. Kristi Noem doesn't get to say, well, I didn't know. The strategy groups work for DHS and McLaughlin, the agency spokesperson. She says, we don't have visibility into why my husband's company was chosen. I don't know who they're a subcontractor with, and I don't work with them because I have a conflict of interest, and I fully recused myself. My marriage is one thing, my work is another, and I don't combine them. Her husband is the CEO of the strategy group, Ben Yuhu. They don't talk about work at home. DHS has no involvement in the selection of subcontractors, but it just turns out that a very favorable one was chosen, and it turns out to be run by the husband of one of the lead spokespersons for DHS, and we've seen her on Fox over and over again. Again, you make me agree with Jasmine Crockett. Don't worry. Jasmine Crockett is still an idiot, and she still says stupid things. You know, like claiming that a person named Jeffrey Epstein is always the same Jeffrey Epstein, and that there's only one Jeffrey Epstein, and if someone named Jeffrey Epstein gave you money, then that is the Jeffrey Epstein, or it's a Jeffrey Epstein. This is actually really funny. She got knocked over on CNN because Crockett, being correct about this DHS thing, made an accusation that people received money from Jeffrey Epstein, but it's the wrong Jeffrey Epstein, and she couldn't even walk that back. And she claimed, oh, we just did a quick dive. We just wanted to make sure people understood that there was another person named Jeffrey Epstein. You guys tell me if this argument falls. Again, we have dumb rulers, and all they seem to want to do is line their own pockets. So it's not like they have a monopoly on being correct. It's just like we have basically a monopoly on stupidity in DC, and nobody seems to really address the problem. Like the lady we spoke, Brittany Hughes said. They've stolen our children's future. That's the issue. And rather than DHS spend every penny they have on getting rid of people, no, they're doing like photo shirts for Kristi Noem. I don't know what that shirt cost, but I bet it wasn't cheap. And I bet you the photographer wasn't cheap. And I bet you booking a whole suite of makeup people to go out there into Mount Rushmore to take that picture wasn't cheap. And I bet that was one of the cheapest things they did. Anyway, here's somebody else that loves hair and makeup.
You talked about Republicans taking money from a Jeffrey Epstein. Here's what you said.
Who also took money from somebody named Jeffrey Epstein, as I had my team dig in very quickly. Mitt Romney, the NRCC, Lee Zeldin, George Bush, Win Red, McCain Palin, Rick Lazio.
You mentioned Lee Zeldin there. He's now a cabinet secretary. He responded and said it was actually Dr. Jeffrey Epstein, who's a doctor that doesn't have any relation to the convicted sex trafficker. Unfortunate for that doctor, but that is who donated to a prior campaign of his. Do you want to correct the record on the people that you...
Listen, I never said that it was that Jeffrey Epstein. Just so that people understand, when you make a donation, your picture is not there. And because they decided to spring this on us in real time, I wanted the Republicans to think about what could potentially happen, because I knew that they didn't even try to go through the FEC. So my team, what they did is they Googled. And that is specifically why I said a Jeffrey Epstein, unlike Republicans.
It's a Jeffrey Epstein. We're just smearing you with a sort of generic thought that somebody with the same name who happens to be a physician or a dentist, that guy could also be not the same Jeffrey Epstein, but has a bad name, which is Jeffrey Epstein. That's the argument you just made. Have you guys ever gone through the FEC records? I have. I have looked for some people and found out where they donated money to, because it was interesting to me. And you know what it does have? It doesn't have a picture. She's correct. It does have their address. And if the address wasn't like in New Mexico, where we know Epstein had a house, and it's not in New York City, where we knew he had a house, and it's not in, I think, Miami, he had one, and then also the Virgin Islands, if it's not there and it's somewhere else, stand to reason that you could find out that that person, it wouldn't take very much. You know how I know? Because I've done it. I've done that work. It's not hard to find out who somebody is. That's how I know that there was a Julie Kelly. That's not the Julie Kelly. And the Julie Kelly donated, and her husband, north of $100,000 to Democrats. That's really easy to find. And there are other Julie Kellys in other places like Colorado. And you're like, that's not her. There's another one in Florida. And then you're like, well, that is her, because they have a house in Florida. They actually have two, from what I understand. You see, it's just dishonest. It's the same thing as Lindsey Graham crying about his money. They went through my privacy. No, dude, they did what they're allowed to do. You unserious clowns, that's who represents us. So let's take it there. Let's go to the unserious clown factor. And the most unserious thing that's happened is this story right here, which is what the episode is about, I guess, titled or whatever. This is kind of the big thing. Donald Trump, God forbid, said mean masculine things. Seditious behavior, punishable by death. That's what he shared over on True Social. And it was in the context of something that is, I think, frustrating to a lot of us. The claim is that he actually wanted Democrat lawmakers put to death because of this statement. And I will give it to you. Donald Trump said a group of Democratic lawmakers should be put on trial. Oh, wait, there's a trial involved? Hold on a second here. I heard that he just wanted them dead and that he suggested they should be hung and that this was a threat. He said they should be put on trial. I feel like that's what we do in America, put all people on trial. Didn't they put him on trial? All right, suggested they should face the death penalty after they released a video telling the American government employees, not specifically, they actually were talking about military employees and military service members, to refrain from following orders that broke the law. That's a nice way of framing that. He says, quote, "It's called seditious behavior at the highest level. Each of these traitors to our country should be arrested and put on trial. Their words cannot be allowed to stand. We won't have a country anymore. An example must be set." So it sounds like he's calling for the law enforcement entity to jump in. That's what I read. Now, it's not great. It's not friendly or sweet or nice. It's not palatable, but neither is the last guy that was in the office. And then he continued on, seditious behavior, punishable by death. In other words, he believes that that's what it is. But of course, he also said that there should be a trial, which means that there would be laws, which is the exact opposite of just rounding people up and killing them. That didn't stop these clowns from running out there and running their mouths about it. And apparently, that's how we're going to end the week. Donald Trump called for the death of members of Congress And this was a story from, what is this from? This is from Bloomberg, I think. Bloomberg. So you can just assume your political leans as it is. Allow me to give you a couple of different covers. This is MSNBC, which is now going by MS Now. I don't know why, but they've changed their name to MS Now. And MS Now, which has a lot of purples in it. It's a very effeminate network coloration. They're going to bring on Jason Crow, who's a representative from Colorado, and he was an Army Ranger, but also sounds kind of effeminate, if I do say so myself. So he's going to talk about being behind enemy lines and how he's right where he wants to be, fighting the bad people, blah, 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 blah. And I'll give you another chance. Then he went on Fox and he got a little bit more aggressively interrogated and was not as successful. So let's play the response to Donald Trump's very, very mean tweet that I think people voted for.
Well, listen, I'm a paratrooper. I'm used to being behind enemy lines and being surrounded. This is exactly where I want to be. And to lead in this moment right now requires that we say what needs to be said, that we be bold and we be unafraid, right? Fear is contagious, but so is courage. So I will not be cowed by this president.
Got it. Okay, cool. How'd that go for you? Let's go over and do it on Fox. Does that fly over on Fox when they ask you other questions? Again, we always go to places where we want to be. If you go to the other side, they might ask you harder questions. Good for him for showing up. He said he wanted to be surrounded. He wanted to be behind enemy lines. Going on Fox is behind enemy lines for him. And he gets questioned by a woman. I don't think he comes out very well.
What law are you talking about that's being broken? And then you said that he's implying that he might do something that they wouldn't want to uphold or follow through with in the future. What are you talking about specifically?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking. Well, number one, the protests at Lafayette Square in the first Trump administration where he said, can't you just shoot them? Can't you just shoot them in the legs or something? That's his direct quote. And of course, the then chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
That was not a military order. That was a comment. That's not a military order.
When that's coming from the President of the United States to your generals, don't you think that's a request? That's
I'm
a question?
asking specifically
number two,
what you're talking about.
Yeah, number two, he's also threatened to send the military into Chicago and other cities to, quote, go to war with those cities. Right? That is a very, very disturbing thing. Number three, he's also alluded to sending troops to polling stations, which is actually a violation of U.S. law. U.S. criminal law prohibits troops from going to polling stations. And he's alluded to that. So those are just one of many examples.
You're talking about illusions. You're not talking about actual policy. You're not talking about things that our members of our service members who we revere and respect are actually being asked to do. So when you see this video on all over the place, when you see this video on social media, I think a lot of people scratch their heads and they say, what exactly are they talking about? Are they talking about
Martha,
not allowing gunboats to make it to the United States carrying drugs? Is that what you're talking about?
Martha, here's a novel idea. How about we actually prevent things from happening before they become a problem?
I think that's what they're trying to do.
I think that's what they were trying to do too. I'm not sure they're allowed to. I'm not going to cry about drug boats getting blown up, but at the same time, I agree. I'm not sure that they're allowed to do that. But it does sound like what they're trying to do. MSNBC has a fantastic story today that the drug boats from Venezuela are mainly only moving cocaine to Europe. So we're really screwing up the European party scene. And maybe that's why these guys are so mad that when they go on their European party trips, they can't go do cocaine in Europe. I don't know what this story is about. It's really funny, actually. Can I read it to you guys? By the way, the three things, he said he had four, but he had three really, that Jason Crow was upset about was Lafayette Square protesters who were rioters that made Trump go into the bunker. I was there the next day afterwards. That was in 2020. He's left office and come back. So that's one of the reasons that there could be an unlawful order, but it's 5 years old. The second one is Chicago could be invaded by our military, but hasn't been. So there's that. And then the illusion that he might send troops to polling stations, but hasn't done that. Just so you understand. And he said, that's one of the things that he said. No, that's actually three of the things he said. And none of them are relevant. And none of them are unlawful orders because they aren't orders. But again, we'll just cut fair. They're apparently really upset about drug boats from Venezuela that are moving cocaine to Europe, per the folks over at NBC News. Donald Trump's Pentagon chiefs say the strikes on suspected drug boats off Latin American waters are saving lives by preventing narcotics from reaching American shores. But drug cartels operating the vessels in the Caribbean, where roughly 50% of the airstrikes have taken, are mainly moving cocaine from South America to Europe and not to the United States, according to current and federal law enforcement officials and military officials, as well as narcotics experts. What is a narcotics expert? Is this someone who partakes in the narcotics? Because that's fun. Do they interview them and you're like, where are the best drugs coming from? And they're like, oh, like I go to Europe. That's where I get all my best cocaine that comes in on the boats that they're striking. They're really driving up the cost of the coke. I can't party in Ibiza anymore. I don't know. The deadliest drugs of all kinds, fentanyl, the deadliest of all drugs. Really? Fentanyl's the deadliest drug of all? Okay. It's exclusively smuggled over land, said the officials. Almost exclusively. And so that's not what is being bombed. And we're really messing up the cocaine supply. The realities of the drug trade in Latin America call into question part of the administration's stated rationale for its unprecedented military campaign against suspected narcotics smuggling drug boats. And they wonder if it'll have an efficient or a significant effect on the supply of narcotics in the United States. Fentanyl's not coming out of Venezuela. It comes out of Mexico. Roger that. So you've now made the political left cover for illegal aliens, for doctors who want to change the gender of children, despite rationales that do not make any sense to me. You're now also going to cover for people who are smuggling drugs to Europe because they're not smuggling drugs to the United States. And that money is not fungible and it cannot fund bad things other places. That's a hell of a thing to go after. It's a hell of a thing to make them defend things like this. If your defense is over drug boats, and that outrages you, and illegal aliens who are taking jobs and homes and opportunities from Americans and occupying our schools at a rate that 1 in 6 children in Charlotte apparently is, in Charlotte, North Carolina, is there illegally. So they are actually overpopulating the schools, and you have your child is not going to be properly educated because you don't have enough attention span of the mustached, man bun wearing nose ring guy. That's the hill you want to die on? It's a hell of a hill to die on. Mark Kelly is a more serious man. He's seen combat in an aircraft during the first Gulf War. And I think is he the astronaut or is the other one the astronaut? Maybe the other one's the astronaut. I think he has a twin. I kind of confuse them. I'll be real honest with you. What he says, generally speaking, doesn't land with me. He also has concerns about unlawful orders, and we'll find out what those unlawful orders are as well, just like we heard. Again, the first ones we heard were Lafayette Square, invasion of Chicago, and then polling stations. Let's see if Mark Kelly's got other ones.
Are you worried the president is going to give an illegal order, or why did y'all feel the need to put this video out?
Well, here's the thing. He has talked about sending troops into more U.S. cities. He's talked about invoking the Insurrection Act. You don't have to go too far back to his first administration, where in 2020, he went to his Secretary of Defense and he asked the question, he said, can't we just shoot these protesters in the legs? That is an example of an illegal order, if it was given. He didn't give the order, but it's obviously rattling around in his head. He's got these ideas, and these are dangerous ideas. What he said today, again, was a dangerous idea.
Roger that. Okay, so first of all, I'm mad at Mark Kelly because he does have a twin, and his twin was also an astronaut. Both of these dudes were astronauts. That really makes it hard for me to tell them apart. But he's a current senator, and he's upset that Donald Trump has, I'm going to quote him again, dangerous ideas rattling around in his head. Mark Kelly, as a combat vet, do you not also have some dangerous ideas rattling around in your head? Like, I think all men do. How many of you have said, oh, pedophiles, they should be fed into a wood chipper foot first? That's a dangerous idea, it turns out. It also is probably something you probably can't do. But the idea rattles around. There's a big difference between thinking something and doing something. I thought that was one of the arguments that we made against, sort of this government tyrannical entity that goes out and looks for threats. That's the one that I made. Constitutionally, I would like you to be able to have free speech. I think you should even be able to say your dangerous ideas, regardless of what they are. Because I think that free speech is really important. So if Donald Trump wants to say really nasty things out loud, I think that's fine. And then people can decide what they think about it. And they can vote for him or not vote for him. Again, these people, they want to say that you're not normal because you have a violent and aggressive reaction to your country being stripped from you, from the future being stripped from your kids, which by all accounts, that has always pissed off people, especially Americans who think there's supposed to be, an opportunity for the next generation to have better than we do. I do not like the idea that I am looking down the barrel where for the first time in American history, as far as I can tell, the next generation is looking at a bigger burden and a lower quality of living, lower standard of living from the generation prior. That upsets people, and it makes them have quote unquote dangerous ideas rattle around in their head. Does it not? Chris Murphy has some thoughts. Love this guy. Here he is, telling you what's not normal.
The President of the United States just called for Democratic members of Congress to be executed. This is not normal. We cannot allow this to feel normal. This, as far as I know, has never happened before in the history of the country. Every Democratic member of the Senate and the House, their life is in jeopardy right now, especially those that were specifically targeted by this social media post. Democratic senators and House members who were simply saying that no member of the military should act illegally or in violation of the Constitution.
Cool. Where were you? I remember when a bunch of military service members lost their jobs, lost their livelihoods, lost their possibility of being able to support their family because an unlawful vaccine mandate was issued by the previous president. Where the hell were you on that, buddy? Chris Murphy, anti-gun Chris. Where did you show up with that one and your love for the Constitution and your love for lawful and unlawful orders and those warnings? I was fired over an unlawful order as well. You must do this thing. I will not do that. It violates my principles. Now what? And they said, well, you must do this nasal swab. And I'm like, it's an emergency use authorization drug or kit or medical device. And I don't consent. Now what? And they said, you are gone from your job. You are not performance related. It has nothing to do with your ability to do the job, but we've decided that you are untrustworthy because you won't follow this unlawful order. And that's what happened to me. And dozens of other people from my agency and thousands of people across the federal government. They lost their job or they lost their placement or they had to comply because they thought they had to comply and they did. And shame on them for folding because it left guys like me out there in the lurch. And then the new Secretary of War, formerly DOD, Pete Hegseth came in and said that that was, in fact, an unlawful order. So then what? Have we fired wholesale all these assholes that went out there and did this thing? Excuse my language. Have we done that? The people who just complied with those unlawful orders? Did you see a bunch of Republicans out there parading around? Do not follow unlawful orders. Protect the military. No, we do not. And who was president? I'm going to remind you what the status of affairs were in America couple of years ago. Today apparently is Joe Biden's birthday. I think it is actually. Is it Joe Biden's birthday? I saw that on Twitter and I don't know if that's true. Joe Biden's birthday. Oh, it was yesterday. Sorry, Joe, we missed your birthday. But in honor of your birthday yesterday, I'm going to play some of your greatest hits. This is going to be hard to listen to for all of you. I encourage you to listen anyway. It'd be great if you did. And before we do that, if you guys want to watch it and get the full effect of it, you should do so over on Spotify. If you're not watching on our YouTube channel live, if you're not watching on Rumble Live, if you're doing the replay, check us out on Spotify. I will plug them right here. KyleSerafinshow.com. Easy way to do it. It's better than the regular audio experience. You may hear an ad from them now. On top of that, you can also support us if you are so inclined. We had a fun call-in show last night, KyleSerafin.com. So feel free to support us there. Again, if you're listening somewhere else, if you're watching it on somewhere else, thanks for watching. We appreciate that. Rumble, YouTube, X. Make sure you like the video. Share it with a friend if you are so inclined. Subscribe to the channel. Continue to boost up the subscribers. It does bump us up. Leave a comment if you think something affects you or interacts with you in a way that you'd like to talk about. Here's Joe Biden, the guy who gave that unlawful mandate that I heard no one crying about except those of us who suffered under this evil crap. And since I saw people saying, I think the Gavin Newsom press office was saying like, I wish we had a president that was functional and brain worked. This was the functional brain worked, totally not dying of whatever the hell he was dying of at that time. Barely able to get through without coughing. Enjoy some Joe Biden. This is vintage 2022, the red speech from the beginning. And I'm going to give you a couple clips of it.
My fellow Americans, please, if you have a seat, take it. I speak to you tonight from sacred ground in America, Independence Hall in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This is where America made its Declaration of Independence to the world more than 2 centuries ago. with an idea unique among nations, that in America, we're all created equal. This is where the United States Constitution was written and debated. This is where we set in motion the most extraordinary experiment of self-government the world has ever known. With 3 simple words: we the people. We the people. These 2 documents and the ideas they embody, equality and democracy, are the rock upon which this nation is built. They are how we became the greatest nation on earth. They are why, for more than 2 centuries, America has been a beacon to the world. But as I stand here tonight, equality and democracy are under assault. We do ourselves no favor to pretend otherwise. So tonight, I've come to this place where it all began to speak as plainly as I can to the nation about the threats we face, about the power we have in our own hands to meet these threats, and about the incredible future that lies in front of us if only we choose it.
It took him 1 minute and 15 seconds to pivot toward blaming the opposition. He's about to say that what you are doing, what you think, or what you believe is not normal, as though he were an arbiter of that. Then again, he has been on the planet for 1,000 years, so there's that. It took about 1 minute and 45 seconds into the speech before he pivoted directly to say that the threat is people who do not agree with me, and make it no, like, there's no shading around the edges here. His claim is that if you don't agree with what he says, then that's an un-American position to hold. And we have to remember this. Because for people who are crying about Donald Trump wrote a mean tweet, this man stood up with members of the Marine Corps behind him at Independence Hall, called it sacred and hallowed ground, and then pumped out this one.
Too much of what's happening in our country today is not normal. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic. Now, I want to be very clear up front. Not every Republican, not even the majority of Republicans are MAGA Republicans. Not every Republican embraces their extreme ideology. I know, because I've been able to work with these mainstream Republicans. But there's no question that the Republican Party today is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans. And that is a threat to this country. These are hard things. But I'm an American president, not a president of red America or blue America, but of all America. And I believe it's my duty to level with you, to tell the truth, no matter how difficult, no matter how painful. And here, in my view, is what is true. MAGA Republicans do not respect the Constitution. They do not believe in the rule of law. They do not recognize the will of the people. They refuse to accept the results of a free election. And they're working right now, as I speak, in state after state, to give power to decide elections in America to partisans and cronies, empowering election deniers to undermine democracy itself.
Yeah, they're doing that by trying to get people into state offices, which undermines, apparently, democracy itself. Remember, he said what's going on is not normal. And if you are on the political right, and I would say that people on the MAGA side of things generally lean towards center right, not hard right, not actually conservative like some of us actually are. They're the softer version. There's a far more extreme thing than America first. It's America only and go F yourself. That's where I'm sitting. Like, take care of my family and my kids before any other nation. I don't care what happens to them. Bomb all the drug boats if you like, if that's what gets you off, that are going to go give the cocaine-fueled parties of Europe. Not my problem. Do not care. And so that's what he said. That's what Joe Biden said 3 years ago. That's where we're at right now. That was extreme. And then you're going to go out there and they're going to cry because Donald Trump said seditious behavior is punishable by death. So they go out there and claim Donald Trump wants to kill me.
Earlier today, the President of the United States used his platform to call for my arrest and even to threaten violence against me, specifically death by hanging. Why? Because I joined 5 other duly elected members of Congress who have served in the military or in intelligence services in recording a simple message to our armed forces. Our message to them was, remember your oath, follow lawful orders, refuse unlawful ones, uphold the Constitution above all else. Each of us who has participated has previously served this nation with honor.
This is a message to our president. Mr. Trump, the words you have just spoken against members of Congress, many of them who have served in our military, others who have served in the CIA and intelligence agencies, are very dangerous, and you know it. They put out a simple informational video saying that members of the military are not required to fulfill illegal orders. And in fact, the opposite is true. By their oath to the Constitution.
Here's what Donald Trump reposted on Truth Social today. Hang them. It's been almost 5 years since Donald Trump led an angry mob to the Capitol on January 6th with a gallows and a noose in tow. Now he's threatening senators and members of the House of Representatives for calling on members of the military to disobey illegal orders.
Look, I never thought that simply and clearly stating federal law would ever cause the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, to threaten violence against me and members of Congress. Look, our message is clear to our service members, and I think it's a really important one in this moment. Our laws are clear. We all take an oath to the same Constitution, and it is our responsibility as the ones who write the laws to be clear about what they say. The Uniform Code of Military Justice is crystal clear on this point. It is the obligation of every service member to obey lawful orders and lawful orders only.
Cool. Where were you on the vaccine mandate? All of you. Not one of you spoke up. Not one of you defended the troops who were your constituents who went out there and lost their jobs over this. Thousands and thousands of people lost their careers over it, and they did what was right. They followed their conscience. And the result was no backing. No Ed Markey. No Madeline Dean. None of these people stepped up and did what they were supposed to do. Not one of you. And even as it stands right now, the internal workings of DOD or DOW, it's not solving the problem. We only have a few people that have had their lives restored after all this stuff. And you're asking people to stand and hold the line and not give up the ship? Like, seriously, go F yourself. Those of us who did already know what happens. And you guys are walking up to a line because we remember this. We're not historically ignorant, and the news cycle doesn't dedicate our attention span. We're not going to forget this thing.
MAGA forces are determined to take this country backwards to an America where there is no right to choose, no right to privacy, no right to contraception, no right to marry who you love. They promote authoritarian leaders, and they fan the flames of political violence that are a threat to our personal rights, to the pursuit of justice, to the rule of law, to the very soul of this country. They look at the mob that stormed the United States Capitol on January 6th, brutally attacking law enforcement, not as insurrectionists who placed a dagger at the throat of our democracy, but they look at them as patriots. And they see their MAGA failure to stop a peaceful transfer of power after the 2020 election as preparation for the 2022 and 2024 elections. They tried everything last time to nullify the votes of 81 million people. This time, they're determined to succeed in thwarting the will of the people. That's why respected conservatives like Federal Circuit Court Judge Michael Ludwig has called Trump and the extreme MAGA Republicans, quote, a clear and present danger to our democracy.
It's really simple. It's pretty simple to me, at least. I see exactly what you guys are talking about. I saw what you said. I remember what you said. I remember how you acted. And that's why the story of the January 6th pipe bomber and everything else about it on that day are still relevant. That's why it's not done. Because you used those as your examples. People on the left are still using those examples. Ed Markey used it this week. They dragged the gallows up there and they wanted to hang people and it was January. And Joe Biden said it, and they've been out there and they've been trying to make it real for a long time. That's why and I think you're going to find out that is the case. I think that the evidence is going to prove it out. If Capitol Police, the United States Intelligence Services, the FBI, all were part of something that led to a much bigger outrage on that day. So that people who sat in the middle went like, oh my God, like, I mean, I'm not real crazy about elections that don't look good, but I'm not in for pipe bombs and fighting cops. And then you find out, oh shoot, well, those cops were actually shooting people in the face and were actually violating the use of force policies that they had on that day. And that it also incited people. If that turns out to be the case, which I think there's ample evidence that it is, and nobody's held accountable, yeah, you're damn right that people are going to be pissed. And you should be freaking terrified. Because unlike the effeminate and the soft mustache and the man bun groups and people who talk softly and they don't show up to work because they're worried and they're crying because this is going to be a sad or a dull Christmas, there's some men that have like an awful lot of violence in their hearts. And they signed up to do violence, and they're willing to do it not for indiscriminate reasons, and they're not willing to go out there and just randomly attack people out of like adolescent rage. I've been that guy too. So have you, many of you. You know what I'm talking about. You got hormones and you just don't know what else to do. You want to punch a locker for no reason, right? There are plenty of us who actually look at it and go, there's not a lot of things that I would sacrifice my comfort or my freedom or my happiness for, but like my children's future is one of them. That's why men go to war. That's why grown men go to war. That's why men look at what Joe Biden was doing as being very dangerous. That's why adults who decide to go into law enforcement professions say, I am willing to do violence so others don't have to. I will accept that burden. I can handle it. And then many of them don't know what to do once they've taken it on because it's actually too much for them. We have an epidemic of suicide in our veteran community and our law enforcement and first responder communities for a reason. They take on the worst. And rather than have people celebrate and go, thank God you were there. You're a hero. You stood on the wall. What do instead? They go out there and blow whistles at freaking Methodist churches. And they claim that the thing that they're doing is anti-American and that they may have violated their oath. Screw you people that are out there doing that. Most men want to be left alone. And there's a small number that are willing to do violence on your behalf. If we can't sit there and realize that the people who are willing to do it for righteous reasons, and there are some where the arm of the state is supposed to come in and stop things, then this country is screwed. And we've got half of the political aisle that are cheering that thing on. And the sad thing is, the other half of the aisle is just trying to enrich themselves while they have a temporary grasp on power. The Lindsey Graham types, the Kristi Noem types. They're out there running the scam of a century because they took all of your concern. They said, we see what you want. We understand your concerns. We understand that you just saw a dangerous 4 years where there was aggressively pivoting towards targeting you for like almost religious type reasons. And we're going to use that to make ourselves rich so that we can rule over the rubble when it all falls down. And our kids at least will be taken care of. And your kids are going to be screwed. This is why I'm pissed at the right more than anybody. Because at least the left told me they were my enemy. Joe Biden said it right up front. The people that are on the right are extremists. And you're the issue. What I heard was people on the right are supposed to be my allies then. And when they go out and they dick up an ultimate opportunity to at least hit the damn brakes and turn the car around, they didn't do it. They just said, how much can we siphon out of this gas tank so we can bail out and let that car go burning off the cliff? It's infuriating. My buddy Steve Friend said he may run for Congress against Corey Mills, who's another one of these people that has been doing some real nasty things under the guise of being this patriotic hero. If Steve Friend runs, guys, we're going to get behind it. I'm going to get behind it. And I hope that he actually goes out there And we do one of two things. We either put someone who's halfway decent into office, or we draw enough votes away from the liars that are supposed to be on our team that they end up losing the race. And we can at least have the left who stabs us in the face. I'm more than happy to square up against somebody in a fair fight. Don't stab me in the freaking back and then act like I somehow should have expected it and that I did the wrong thing. I hate that. That's the thing that's why I'm so much more outraged about a failure on the right side, which is what Alex Jones talked about on our show yesterday. When I say that, I mean, I stole a clip of him and he was talking about the white pillars. Oh, it's 300D chess. No, it's failure and it's betrayal. And it's infuriating. I wake up with a headache almost every day with that sort of thing going on. So I'm going to go work out my headache by taking a bike ride. I'm going to do some physical activity. I'm going to work it out the way that men do, which is to do something with my hands, with my heart. I hope you guys do the same thing this weekend. I hope you take some time away from social media, because otherwise all you're going to see is all those lady compilations that I played for you and the feminine men who are screaming that Donald Trump wants to kill me because he put a freaking tweet up or a Truth Social post. That's that. All right. I will remind you now, as you are listening, as you are watching, please support our program. This is the way you can do it. Hit the thumbs up on there. Subscribe to the channels where they are. Boost the signal. We being me and my family, we appreciate you guys doing that. I have a Give, Send, Go that's probably going to be launching shortly for the legal defense. We filed a very, very strong response to the attack from what would be otherwise our side, people who are like patriotic and love America or whatever and don't apparently care about free speech. So we will have something out there. If you guys want to support us for free, all you got to do is hit yay on Rumble. You can do that very easily. You hit thumbs up on Rumble, thumbs up on YouTube, like us over on X, follow us at Spotify. Follow us there if you follow somewhere else too. KyleSerafinshow.com. You never know when you might need to back away from the live platforms and watch us on the replay. And then lastly, you can follow us on locals at KyleSerafin.com. All of these links are in the show description if you're ever wondering like, hey, I forgot. That's it for the Today Show. I have like one thought and I just wanted to do something funny that makes me laugh. And I found this last night. I don't think we played it, but every once in a while I want a little musical interlude. So here's a musical interlude going into the weekend. Just a reminder, turn your life to Jesus. How about that? Go to church this Sunday.
He said, son, I know you're growing. I ain't got time for no home mowing. You gotta get down on your knees now, boy, and pray the gay away. He said, you gotta pray the gay away now. Each and every day, you gotta let the Lord come inside you now. God's the only way. You gotta give your life to Jesus and stop dreaming about the peace. You got to pray the gay away. You gotta pray the gay away.
Maybe we could pray the gay away in this country. All right. God bless you. Have a great weekend. I hope that made you smile. It made me smile just for a second. We'll see you guys on Monday.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Serafin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Serafin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram at Kyle Serafin.